Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let me welcome you to this evening's edition of Margot Tree Dialogues, a forum in which we discuss the issues of the day and try to distill them in a way that I'm sure you can appreciate, I'm sure you have an interest in those issues as much as I do. All right, this evening we are going to concentrate our minds on what is happening in the United States. And frankly, there is so much happening that it is very difficult to even know where to begin, to tell you frankly. And so what I want to talk to you about is, in a very general way, but yet very specific, is the whole matter of living under what I describe as the Trump-Musk chaos. Living under the Trump-Musk, Elon Musk, of course, chaos. Well, today, the 20th of February, marks the first month of the Trump administration in power. And what a month it has been. What some people would say, it has been a very dizzying time. And certainly it has been. I don't think that many people expected the ways in which the administration has begun to roll out its policies and to carry out, almost in some precise form, what it had stated in its manifesto, its Project 2025 document, where it outlined a number of things that it would have done, almost 900 and odd pages of that. And from all indications, they're just beginning. So the country is under the throes of what many of us, at least some of us, warned. I certainly did warn people a good 2 or 3 months before the elections that if Trump became the president, that we should tighten our belts because we are going to be entering into turbulent times. Well, it's hard you can anticipate things, but when you begin to see them unfurl before you, then there's a difference between what you anticipate and what actually happens. And what is happening now, in my view, it could hardly have been contemplated, even though you had a sense of the kind of chaos and fear and disruptions that would attend the deconstruction of America as we have known it. The most tragic aspect of it is the way in which DOGE, the department of that Musk runs, the Department of Government Efficiency, whatever that is. One cannot even be sure at this time whether Musk is operating as an employee. Well, he's not an employee of government in the sense that he's being a paid employee. He hasn't been appointed by Congress. He hasn't been appointed by any official body. All that has happened is that he has been endorsed by Trump as let me say President Trump, he's not president, as he has been endorsed by him. And that endorsement seems sufficient to give him the kind of authority that he believes he has to carry out the actions that he is presently indulging. So we have somebody with enormous power. I cannot recall a time, not in my lifetime for sure, following these things where one single person, unelected, in a way unofficial person, could be given the kind of authority that Elon Musk has been given in the American society. And I think that what is happening, in a way, has confounded people so much, has caught so many people flat-footed, especially those who have been elected in authority to take care of the people's business. Everybody can sit in Congress. So we elect a certain amount of people, 100 senators and 435 members of the House of Representatives, 535 in all, to run our business. But I'll come back to them a little later on. But everybody has been caught flat-footed by his appointment, Musk's appointment, and by extension, what he has begun to do, the inordinate power that he has begun to exercise in firing people, shutting down agencies, shutting down very important programs like the US aid program that has been a signal program to give you that soft side of America, of an America that cares. And the summary dismissal of the staff of that agency and shutting it down, boom. And then the firings in the different departments that they're moving into. And you know what is sad is that, like I said, they're just beginning, and it really is going to get worse. But as I said, is the speed at which they have been moving, because you say you have to confound the enemy, who they regard as the enemy. You have to catch them unawares. And you know what this reminds me of? There was a time in the Second World War when Hitler started to invade countries and to take over countries. There was a concept that came into being that was called the Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg. And what this was intended to do, it was a kind of quick movement of troops, an overwhelming force in a very quick, lightning succession. So that you catch the enemy unaware. And he's not, the country, before the country knows what is happening, the soldiers are dropping out of the sky through parachutes and onto their territory and taking over. So no, they never had a chance. Even France, a big country like France, fell within a short time. But when Hitler started to move across Europe to take over countries, they just fell like nine pins. Blitzkrieg. And you know, when I saw how Musk and Trump are moving, that is a word that came to my mind. Because what they're carrying out is nothing short of a blitzkrieg in shutting down agencies and moving so fast across government, firing people so that you don't have a chance to really stop him. The few that have been held up in the courts, now the courts, some of the courts seem to be opening themselves to accommodate some of this kind of thing, and they know not what they're doing, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know what is the agenda behind what is taking place. But nonetheless, this fast pincer-like movement across agencies, government agencies, is, again, it is just beginning. Because as soon as the others in Trump's cabinet get confirmed, and today Kash Patel was confirmed as FBI director. Last week, we had the Tulsi Gabbard, who was confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. And also you had RFK Jr., who was confirmed as the Human and Health Secretary. So what you're going to find out is that now that they situate themselves in these agencies and Trump has got the people that he wants to do his bidding, what you're going to find in these agencies is that they too now are going to begin to look at what to cut. I think it started under the HHS, the Human and Health Services, under RFK. And it has started under Hegseth with the Pentagon. Let me just back up and say something here, friends. Because we want to give an analysis that is pregnant with objectivity. And I just want to back up and say that the American government and its bureaucracy is humongous. I think that if you go through any agency of government, you will find a lot of waste. I don't know so much about fraud. I think you'll find that too. But you'll find a lot of waste of people's resources, money just being spent without any real accountability. And we are able to keep on doing that year after year because as things run short, you run the deficit and you push money into programs or you push money into agencies, even though you needed to have drawn, pull them back and say, hey, watch what you're doing. Be careful. And one of the places where there has been a lot of waste and where if these guys are really true to their mission of really finding out fraud and finding out waste, they're going to find a lot over there. Is the Pentagon. It is one of the biggest spenders of taxpayers' money. One little airplane. Well, let me not call it little because one of these jets that they say is necessary. And the big contracts that they give out to Lockheed Martin and Marietta and all these big military government contractors. The amount of money that is spent there boggles the mind. I recall the Iraq, let me say the US-Iraq war under Bush. And the monies that were sent down there, just thrown down there. Contractors with the government because they were in war, never had to go through the normal procurement procedures, but the head of the organizations, the Pentagon and I think the defense secretary was Dick Cheney at the time. And I'm not sure how true this is, but when they were asked, how is it that they're going to pay for this war? They said the deficits are there, run deficits, print money. That's, we don't have time to go and back up. What we're gonna cut over here and what taxes we're gonna levy over there to run this war. And during that time, the amount of money, did they say almost $1 trillion? Look how much was spent on in Afghanistan. Military materials that were just left in Iraq too, when people hightailed it, out there when they ended the war. But the amount of money that was wasted. So don't get me wrong. I believe that there was and still is a need for there to be a very serious overhaul of the government and to look at waste and to tighten things up. But the way that these guys are going at it, I don't know, let me just put it that way, whether it is going to have the desired effect that is anticipated, because they are going at it, like I said, with a lightning speed, blitzkrieg. And a lot of things are going to be overlooked. And frankly, at the back of my mind, I wonder at the intention of these people. How honorable is the intention? Because if you're going inside there to find waste and fraud, that's good. But what is the underlying driver for you wanting to do that? How honorable is your intention? Are you just going to slash and burn because you want to put your own people inside there to perhaps perpetuate even more fraud than you think you're finding? Are you wanting to cut staff in these agencies, even if there's no perceived fraud, but because you want to move people in these agencies who are more amenable to the Trump agenda? And are you wanting to really save money so that you can carry out the big tax heist that you promised on the campaign trail to justify it? You know, I heard a thing, well, not heard a thing, it's out there. I mean, Trump has said he's floating it out there that when they have saved all these monies, that they can give about that 20% money back to the people. Friends, would you know that it's about a week or so ago, I had the thought that you can bet that Trump is going to come with something like that. And if he does do it at all, it will give him another chance to sign his name to it. But you know what I believe is even worse is that all of this is a front. Even if he pays, he gives back people some money in their pockets, and people are hard put. So take the money, you know. But I think that what is hoping to have happen is that this is what I call a placatory move, to placate people, so that when he brings out the big tax heist for the richest people in the country who don't need it, you can't say that he didn't send out some money or will not be sending out some money, some crumbs to the poorer people too. It's a placatory gesture if he ever does it. So either way, it is corrupt in my mind. It's not much different than when they went to this country, kind of slipped my mind now, getting old. And he was there just throwing out things to people. Puerto Rico, just throwing out things to people. Because he has a deep sense of empathy about your need and my need. So, but I leave that. It's just a thought, and you can think about it. So I have no problem with them going in, discovering fraud and rooting out. But it's what is at the back end coming in that could keep you up at night. But there's a second element to it too. And this is the element of the callous and total disregard people. And it's not going to have a very devastating consequence on people's lives. And to the extent that you're doing it, and to the extent that you're going to be doing it with the other agencies when these guys get settled in their new roles. What we're dealing with at the end of the day are people. And you have billions of dollars, it doesn't matter to you what people are feeling. And that's why I said they'll come with this placatory gesture, and people take the gesture, but I hope they understand what is behind it. If it does come with these so-called stimulus checks, Doge checks, they may call them. But it is real people, families. that are behind this and that are going to suffer, that are suffering right now, because it is no secret that many Americans live from one paycheck to the next. Without the next paycheck, it is a disaster waiting to happen for many families. Think about it, friends. Let's say you're an employee of one of these agencies. Like I've heard some people started to complain already, but those who get a chance to talk, you can bet that most of them are in that same kind of predicament as you hear when people come and talk about them. You have a family of 4. You're getting 100,000 a year. So you're probably maybe getting a good 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 in your hand after tax and perhaps other expenses. Yeah, you have a 4, you have your family to feed. And a 4 is really generous, but you have a family to feed. You have household expenses to take care of. You have your car note to cover. You have your mortgage if you have a house. All of a sudden, you look in your inbox and you get an email from Musk and his stooges, his young stooges running amok in these agencies. You're fired. Well, it's not stated that way, but that's the bottom line. They quote it in neater language and not too neat either. But you're told that your job no longer exists. Just like that. What did you do to merit that? What crime did you commit? What fraud did you commit against the government that they should tell you that? Fire you without cause. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have certain partisan operatives in any of these agencies. That's the nature of the thing. But to what extent do you have them? And to what extent do you have the others who really are employed, wanting to do a good job, wanting to work hard to make a living for themselves, and loving the job that they're doing, and wanting to do the best they can to express the essence of their talents? How many of them are there like that who get caught up in this blitzkrieg? But does Musk care? Does Trump care? Do the MAGA elements there care? What's going to happen is that in a situation like this, a lot of unintended consequences are likely to happen. And many of those MAGA people are going to feel it. And they're going to say, this is not what I supported you for. This is not what I signed up for. You have MAGA people scattered throughout the entire government just the same way. When they begin, when Mr. RFK starts to wage his blitzkrieg over in HHS, a lot of hospitals are going to shut down. Vaccines are going to be under question. All kinds of things are going to happen. He started to fire important people already. The FDA head, I understand, was fired. Food and Drug Administration, very important in terms of dealing with your food security. What's happening to these people is nothing short of callous. And there's going to be a price to pay. You see, why I said the intentions are not honorable in the way that they're doing this thing is that this callous nature of how they're approaching it, irrespective of what people think, shows this distinct lack of empathy, of feeling, of care. That's not what America is about. And if that is what America is going to become, then Lord help us. There's still another element to it that I'd like to pick up on. I've said before that when you carry out, like I said, the American government is a very humongous bureaucracy. There's none like it in the world, not even in the heyday of the Roman Empire. It was anything near that. That too was a very burgeoning bureaucracy. But there's none like the US government. And so when you carry out things like that, you know that things will go wrong. Many things will go wrong. You don't just put a bulldozer into a situation and you're not going to run over the innocent. And you're not going to destroy good things that were there that would have preferred to preserve. Like the people that they fired at who were in charge of the nation's nuclear secrets. And there it is now. Yeah, they had to scurry and bring them back in. What if Putin or Xi had launched a war? What would have happened? A nuclear war. You know what I mean? But that might be extreme. But what the point I'm making is that when you go through in a bulldoze like blitzkrieg like manner with these things, you're likely to make a lot of mistakes. And we will see. They have already started, but the more obvious ones that we have not seen yet. Hold on. Not far down the road, I don't think. And so the last point to this that I'd want to mention, I don't want to weary you too much, is the impotence of the legislature. Everybody can sit in Congress. Like I said earlier, everybody can sit in Congress. So that's why we elect 535 people to go in there and represent us and to stand up to make laws, to protect the laws that they make and to prosecute those who break those laws. Right now, the laws of the country are under tremendous assault, and people don't know for sure what law is being broken and what law is being trampled upon. The Republicans in the Congress, in my view, with the exception of probably, you could count them on 5 fingers, if so much, are in open complicity with what Trump is doing. Sometimes when they're cornered by the journalists to speak to a particular matter, they speak they parse their language, or they speak in tones or in sentences that do not directly speak to the dastardly things that Trump is doing. And many people say that they're fearful. And probably they are fearful. But I think there are many there who are more concerned about their preservation of power and their exercise of power than they are about protecting the laws of the country and protecting the best elements of the country's life. More concerned about self-aggrandizement than they are about protecting your interests and mine. They're weaklings, they are wimps. Matter of fact, those words don't even begin to describe them because I see the dangers that Trump represents in what he's doing. I mean, take, for example, him saying that Zelensky started the war. What kind of nonsense is that? And when you ask these Republican senators, it's like, you know, they're dancing the cha-cha around it. What do you call those men? Do they look in the mirror? And, it is this kind of weakling on the part of the elected representatives of the people that cause a quick descent into tyranny. Because if they're fearful to even stand up to uphold the democratic rights of the country, it will not be long before we descend into that kind of tyrannous situation, especially when the person who is in charge of the country, the president, is expressing all kinds of sentiments and impulsivities that tell you that he's the emperor and that he's the king of all that he is, telling nations what they should do, saying that the war must end, and telling all kinds of lies about who started the war. So we're in a very serious and precarious situation when the members of the legislature bend their knees and surrender to this kind of development. It's bad for the country. Ted Cruz, it is bad for the country. Josh Holloway, it is bad for the country. Marco Rubio, your Secretary of State now, but you need to know it's bad for the country. Tillis, all of you who are bowing your knees to what you know is the desecration of the rule of law in the country. You should not be holding the jobs that you're holding. As a matter of fact, all of you who behave that way are an offense to the people who voted for you. I don't think I can say it stronger. To say it stronger is probably to do something that is inimical of me. Use expletives. Oh, Father, you know those so well. But on the other hand, you have the Democrats. By the way, there are some people who say that these Republicans don't know better. I'm not giving them that pass. Many of them went to the best schools in the country. They have the power of analysis. They're not suffering from Alzheimer's, as far as I know. So I'm not going to give them any pass to think that they don't know what they're doing or what they're defending or the implications of what could come. But like I said before, they're more concerned about their own personal power and to aggrandize themselves to probably become rich because they feel that what Trump is doing is something that can enrich all of them. Who knows? But anyway, to the Democrats, because they are, ever since they lost the election, they are like a deer caught in the headlights. They are dazed and asking, what happened? What just happened? I heard they said that there are three kind of people in the world. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who ask, what just happened? I think the Democrats are in the latter. What just happened? They're flat-footed and they don't really know how to respond. And I understandably, I'm not killing them too much because nobody anticipated this blitzkrieg and the way that things are going. I mean, Trump could make all his statements on the platform, but would one have known that he would be behaving in this kind of, and although he's given to erratic behavior, that it would be this erratic. So I can understand their sense of, dazedness, there's such a word, and their inability to really get back and respond. But that has to end. It has to end at some point. And they need to align themselves with civil society groups, and begin advocacy begin to protest. Our members of Congress, let them arrest you. Get out there and show them. That's what you were elected to do. Lead these protests against what you believe or perceive to be wrong. But silence is not an option. You don't get to just collect your salary at the end of the month and do nothing when the whole country is going to hell in a handbasket. It's time you get up off your laurels and really get out there and do things. And I can tell you what's going to happen when that starts. Worse if the protest should show any sign of violence. Because that's when the emperor would really step out there. I don't want to say what I anticipate could happen just now. But if I begin to see signs of that advocacy, then I can begin to tell you what you can anticipate. What I believe, as I don't have any, hourglass, but there are clear signs of what can happen. But nonetheless, cowardice and impotence is not what we want at this time. And I pray that the Democrats will find some steam, get some traction, and begin some real advocacy. And I pray too that somehow there's a spirit of wisdom and enlightenment that may come to the Republicans, and they can begin to see, really see, that this country is being turned into a vile country, one in which I don't think they're going to want to have their children live in, to grow up in. Germany did not just fall because Hitler blew on it. No. There was a systematic chipping away of the institutions and insinuating his people inside of them so that they could conform to his will. Does the present playbook look different? So let us finally, my final comment is, don't react to any of this thing with fear. I know that it is very easy for us to be fearful, because nobody wants to be called names or to be set upon or to be harassed or even hurt. And that can very well happen. But as Roosevelt reminded us, the greatest thing to fear is fear itself. It is okay for you to be righteously indignant about what is taking place. Righteous indignation is cathartic. As a matter of fact, it is therapy. Therapy to the soul, because you're expressing the essence of your own revulsion against what you perceive to be wrong. And that's fine. That's why Paul said, be angry, but sin not. Express your indignation, but don't let it go over into violence so that the other side that has the army behind it and have all the forces of the state behind it can find a reason to pulverize you. That's what Martin Luther King knew. And that's why he settled for nonviolence as a means of protest. So don't give up. Don't be fearful. Step out there and make your voice be known. I don't think that my little voice won't make any difference. You'd be shocked to know to what extent you can talk to somebody and influence somebody else to your viewpoint, if you do it in love and in sincerity. So let me thank you then for joining me. I have to bring this to an end. You know, the drill that, if you like what you see, just give me that like and share what you hear with others. We want to keep a good thing to ourselves if you appreciate it. All right, and thank you very much for joining me under the mango tree this evening. And whatever you do by word and deed, Just walk good. Good night.